Good morning and welcome, everyone. Welcome to our very first Climate Pollution Reduction Grant stakeholder meeting. If we could go to the next slide, we can get started. Just a few logistics. Please check and update your username. We ask that you stay muted unless you're asking a question during our question and answer portion. And as we go along, you are able to write a comment or question in the chat box, and then we can address it in either the Q&A portion, or if we are unable to get to all of your questions, then we will post the responses on our website after the presentation is done. If we go through all of the questions in the chat and you'd like to make a verbal comment during this meeting, please wait until the question and answer portion. And how you do it is you virtually raise your hand by using the reactions menu at the bottom of the Zoom screen and select raise hand. Once your hand is raised, we will call on you to make your comment. Next slide, please. Thank you. So today we will be discussing the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant, and this is our very first stakeholder meeting information session. We will hear from several speakers about the CPRG. First, we'll have an overview of the CPRG, and then we will hear from the two lead agencies that were awarded the grant, the state of Georgia, and also the Atlanta Regional Commission. So we'll hear the status of Georgia's CPRG, and then last but not least, ARC's CPRG status. We will have a section for a Q&A, and then we will close out. Now I will turn it over to Chief of the Air Protection Branch, Jim Boylan, to introduce today's speakers.
All right. Thanks, Claudette. Appreciate it. My name's Jim Boylan, Chief of the Air Protection Branch, and I am very excited that Georgia EPD and ARC are working on climate action plans and look forward to hearing feedback from all of our stakeholders. Next, I will introduce our three speakers today. The first is Claudette Ayanaba, and Claudette started working at Georgia EPD in the Air Protection Branch in 2008 as a permit engineer in the Minerals Unit. After receiving her master's in environmental planning and management, she transferred to the Planning and Regulatory Development Unit as a rule writer. For the past 3 years, she was policy manager at the Southeast Energy Efficiency Alliance, SEA, also known as SEA. In summer of 2023, she returned to the PRDU, the Planning and Regulatory Development Unit in the Air Branch, and manages the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant program for us here. She earned a BS in physics from Spelman College, another BS in mechanical engineering from Georgia Tech, and an MS in environmental planning and management from Johns Hopkins University. Our second speaker is Anna Aponte. Anna has a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from Georgia Tech. She began her career here in the Air Branch permitting program, where, among other things, for 13 years, she became an expert with the permitting of power plants and worked on the early stages of the NOx SIP call for Georgia. Later, Anna decided to go to the private sector and work for Georgia Power, continuing her work with power plants and the complex regulatory issues they face. Finally, Anna returned to EPD and has been working in the Planning and Regulatory Development Unit, where she has been working on SIP development projects as well as new Rural Development. Anna became manager of the Planning and Regulatory Development Unit in September of 2021. And then finally, we have Crystal Jackson. Crystal Jackson is Planning Manager for Climate and Sustainability for the Atlanta Regional Commission. And ARC, as it's known, is the Planning and Intergovernment Coordination Agency for the 11-county region. She works with communities to improve the region's environmental footprint and address climate change. Prior to joining ARC's Natural Resources Group, Crystal was part of ARC's local government service team, managed the Georgia Conservancy's Blueprints Community Planning Program, and spent several years as an environmental educator for Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, and the Chattahoochee Nature Center in Roswell, Georgia. She earned a bachelor's degree in earth sciences from UNC Charlotte and a master's degree of city and regional planning from Georgia Tech. She is a LEED Green Associate and graduate of the Institute for Georgia Environmental Leadership, also known as IGEL. And with that, I will turn it back to Claudette for an overview of EPA's Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim. What is the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant? So in 2022, the Biden administration announced the Inflation Reduction Act, another federal funding opportunity aimed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. As part of the IRA, the Environmental Protection Agency developed the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. This is a two-phase grant program that provides funding of $250 million for non-competitive planning grants. And the second phase is the $4.6 billion for competitive implementation grants. I will go through the many deliverables, requirements, and deadlines, of which there are many, throughout my presentation. Here are the lead agencies from the states and the metropolitan statistical areas that were awarded the planning grants. You can also see the states and metropolitan statistical areas, or MSAs, that declined to participate. There are many levels to this grant. We have one planning grant, but we have 3 deliverables over 4 years. The first level has first deliverable is the Priority Climate Action Plan, or PCAP, and that is due the spring of 2024. It is the high priority implementation ready plans of the lead agency. Then we have the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan, or CCAP. And 4 years after the award date, a status report must be submitted. The difference between the CCAP and the PCAP is the CCAP, in the name, is a more comprehensive plan. And I will talk more about that. These are the same 3 deliverables, but I have added in details about deadlines. So the state of Georgia submitted their notice of intent to participate on April 28th of this year, and that is for the non-competitive planning grant portion, where we were awarded $3 million. There are 2 parts to the Priority Climate Action Plan. The actual plan is due on March 1st, 2024. And following that, monthly reports will be required. And then the second phase of that is the implementation grant portion that is due April 1st, where applicants will be competing for a $4.6 billion grant. Then the summer of 2025, the CCAP is due. And then 4 years after that, 4 years after the award date, the status report is due. Now, what are the requirements of the 3 deliverables? Here I have listed out the requirements for each, the PCAP, the CCAP, and the status report. I will go into detail the requirements for the PCAP. I will talk through the greenhouse gas inventory requirement, quantify greenhouse gas reduction measures, quality assurance project plan, the low-income disadvantaged communities benefits analysis, and the review of authority to implement. Now, these requirements, in addition to other requirements, will be due for the CCAP. The CCAP will also require GHG emissions projections, GHG reduction targets, intersection with other funding availability, and a workforce planning analysis. The status report will require an update to all of the other requirements that are listed here. The ones that are not listed under the status report, our EPA is encouraging an update, but it is optional. There are several sectors and industries that contribute or are impacted by climate. Depending on the entity that is identifying these sectors, they may be different. For example, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has a list of sectors, and there are other entities that supply emissions data based on economic sector. And there are variations by different regions, states, and localities. But for the purposes of the CPRG, EPA has identified these 6 key sectors. We have electricity generation, transportation, commercial and residential buildings, waste and materials management, agriculture and natural and working lands, and industry. The first requirement I will go through is the GHG inventory. It can consist of whatever data is existing at the state or the MSA. And it is a simplified inventory that is required for the PCAP. A state and MSA can also use one of the listed tools here that are listed here. Now, for the CCAP, a comprehensive inventory is required. Therefore, all GHG emissions and sinks for all 6 key sectors must be included, and the inventory must include these primary greenhouse gases. For the status report, an inventory update is encouraged but not required. The next requirement is the quantified greenhouse gas reduction measure. EPA has defined the measure as programs, policies, measures, and projects that will achieve or facilitate the reduction of greenhouse gas air pollution. Here is a list of examples of different types of reduction measures that a lead agency can use. They are not mandatory, but these are examples of different kinds of measures. And they also must have an authority, a legal or regulatory authority that backs each of these measures. For each measure, the lead agency must provide an estimate of GHG emissions reductions, a schedule, a cost for each measure, and metrics. For the PCAP, this would be near-term, high priority, and implementation-ready measures. For the CCAP, you will need the full suite of implementation measures, but you will again be supplying the GHG emissions reductions, schedules, costs, and metrics. For the GHG reduction measures, a status report update is required. EPA now requires that we submit a quality assurance project plan in addition to the listed requirements, and the quality assurance project plan must be submitted and approved before any data collection begins. This is what we call a QAP. A QAP is a formal planning document which describes how environmental information operations are planned, implemented, documented, and assessed during the life cycle of a project. What are we asking when we develop a QAP? We must include what data we are tracking, who will do the data tracking, how will we verify the data, and what will the tracking be used for? The last requirement I will talk about is the low income and disadvantaged communities benefits analysis, or what EPA is calling the LIDAC analysis. The Justice 40 initiative set forth in Executive Order 4008, which aims to deliver 40% of the overall benefits of relevant federal investments to disadvantaged communities. In order to advance these goals and support the CPRG development that may impact these communities, EPA has developed this framework for grantees to use. This is for marginalized, underserved, and overburdened by pollution communities, and that may accrue impacts from the implementation of GHG emission reduction measures. The first step is to identify the communities using the two tools listed here. Once you have identified the communities, then engage with the communities. Here are some examples for community engagement. You can form a community engagement committee, develop a statewide outreach, develop a community engagement plan. And what must be included in the PCAP or CCAP is a qualitative discussion of what Georgia's disadvantaged communities are vulnerable to. Is it extreme heat, flood, drought, and how will the reduction measures help or harm these communities? If I have not mentioned enough levels and requirements, there are two more. We have the 2 phases of the PCAP. The written plan is due March 1st and is open to lead agencies that receive planning grants. And then the implementation grant competition is due April 1st, where applicants will be competing for between $200 and $500 million. And there are several things that we do know about the implementation grant competition. We know that the evaluation criteria priorities and a wide variety of GHG reduction measures must be contained in the PCAPs. We know that EPA will have funding tiers allowing comparably sized projects to compete against one another. We also know that a notice of funding opportunity will be released at the end of September, end of next month, which will have more details about the PCAP and the implementation grant. What do we not know for sure that we are waiting to hear about is who can apply? Will it be the actions and strategies that are listed in the PCAP, or will it be specific projects that are listed in the PCAP? And those are the folks that can apply. And who will lead the award process? Can it be the lead agency that leads the award process along with EPA? Or is it just EPA? And when will the awards be granted? We are waiting to hear. And now I will turn it over to Anna to tell us about what the state is working on.
Thank you, Claudette. I will give you all a general overview of what we're working on and what our status is for the parts of our CPRG grant. As you can see, our project has 4 sections. We are currently in the research and planning phase, indicated by the orange arrow. We are sitting at the August stakeholder meeting and plan to have at least 2 more. We are also in the process of setting up a steering committee made of select state agencies to help spread this grant throughout the state of Georgia. And starting this month and through the end of the year, committees will be working on collaborating and developing plans that will be included in the PCAP. Our goal is to draft the PCAP by the end of the year and have it finalized by February. Next, I'll talk through our research and planning status. We've sent out a survey to get more information about who our interested stakeholders are. We've received so far about 20 responses and want to encourage you all to share our forum with others to continue gathering information. Here's what we found that people are interested in. As you can see, a lot, 30% are interested in funding intersections, 30% are interested in LIDAC, and then also 15% are interested in greenhouse gas reduction measures. These are also our listed stakeholders. So what are your business or organization that you're listed in? We do have, it seems, a nice variety of academia and government and community engagement, but we would like to also build our citizen involvement and industry and consultants and such. So we look forward to expanding this list of stakeholders. Here's our list of stakeholders. These are the buckets and types of stakeholders we've identified so far. We expect and would like more. So if you know of other groups that would be interested in our work on CPRG, please share that and share all of our information, especially from today's meeting. Next, I'm going to walk through our stakeholder engagement status and process. We intend to provide, and EPA requires, meaningful engagement with all of our stakeholders. And we've identified the different ways that meaningful engagement will be used throughout this process. I'm going to run through just the main sections of it. The first part is public, so information sharing meetings and providing opportunities for you all as a stakeholder to give us input. Another opportunity is the LIDAC, the Low Income and Disadvantaged Communities Analysis. We are looking to create a committee of community representatives and potentially identify the needs and opportunities and how we can benefit those different communities. We're looking at engaging with other agencies. Our steering committee will include the Georgia Department of Transportation, GDOT, Atlanta Region Transit Link Authority, or ATL, Georgia Department of Economic Development, Georgia Environmental Finance Authority, or GEFA, and of course, Georgia EPD. We are also meeting with other agencies, cities, counties, and regional groups throughout the entire state of Georgia. And then also, we are interested in partner meetings from our key sectors, which gives these groups an opportunity to connect and provide input to EPD. Here's our PCAP requirement status. EPD is partnering with Drawdown Georgia for the greenhouse gas inventory portion of CPRG. Drawdown Georgia has a greenhouse gas emissions tracker, and here's a picture of their website right here on your screen. Drawdown Georgia is a collaborative effort of NGOs and universities. In 2018, they set out to identify 20 climate solutions that are market-ready, local experience, near-term impactful, affordable, and have social co-benefits. Emissions from key economic sectors are being tracked monthly, and you can access them. A lot of work needed for the inventory has already been done. EPD can now engage with several schools within the university system, our HBCUs, and we can showcase a Georgia-based product. And if you compare the Drawdown Georgia inventory to EPA's inventory, it's within 2% of their numbers. Using the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool, here is the map of Georgia's disadvantaged communities. They are highlighted in dark gray. They are based on the Council on Environmental Quality methodology designed for Justice 40. Census tracts are used, and those populations are between 1,200 and 8,000 people. The tool ranks most of the burdens using the percentile, while some are a simple yes and no. So we will be using this tool as a part of our LIDAC analysis. And you can see that a lot of Georgia is highlighted, and that you can see that this is very much going to be a grant that will impact as much of Georgia as we can. The implementation grants are competitive. So for those that are interested in the implementation grant, EPA has given some direction, and we're waiting for more that will come in September. What we are very interested in is existing climate action plans that you as stakeholders have already developed. These plans can have collaboration with others or even cover a region. Any measures that you would have listed would need to be implementation ready or otherwise ready to go once you have funding. All of these plans need to look how they will impact low-income and disadvantaged communities. Georgia has some preliminary plans to include transportation as a priority, and that's where we have started. That is not our ending point, but that is just our beginning. The key items that we have already identified that we think will have a good impact on Georgia includes EV and battery production, EV infrastructure, and a hydrogen fuel corridor. In Georgia alone, we have 2 EV plants. Hyundai Meta plant is already began construction in South Georgia. Rivian, which will be in Southeast Atlanta, has been approved and is starting the permitting process. We have new EV battery plants. We have 2 that are already built and 1 that is planned. We also have additional EV battery manufacturing with 4 more plants being planned. So we are looking and building from here. And so we are looking for more ideas in transportation, but we also need your help to identify additional reduction measures in other key sectors that we listed back on slide 10. How can you help us? Please tell us your plans that you may know of or anything that we should be aware of. Do you know of or can provide input on any of these listed areas? Do you have specific plans that are about these areas like energy, transportation, waste, or agriculture? If you do, we want to know what those are. Our next steps. We need information from you all. So we have these QR codes that are on your screen now, and we will email out all the links. The first one, let us know. That is, let us know your plans. That will take you to a link to our Google form requesting information. Stay connected. This is our Gov Delivery email subscription. You can follow this link to stay connected with our EPD, with Georgia EPD, on all our CPRG emails and information that we will send out. Finally, Learn More is a link to our EPD website, and that's where we will keep you all updated with all of Georgia's current information on CPRG. We will send out these links, like I said, in our follow-up email after this meeting. I will now turn it over to Crystal to tell you all about ARC's plans.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Crystal Jackson with the Atlanta Regional Commission, and I'm happy to be here with you today. Just a little bit about the Atlanta Regional Commission and why we're here on the state's CPRG webinar. We are an 11-county regional commission established by the state of Georgia. We also cover 20 counties for our Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is looking at transportation and air quality established by the federal government. We have a mission to create one great region that fosters thriving communities for all, that's collaborative, data-informed, and make sure that we're using our investments wisely. We have several goals listed on the right, and we feel that climate action plan done under the CPRG process will hit all of these goals in many ways. Next slide. ARC has many different departments, and you can see here we have a pretty broad climate and sustainability umbrella, from our community and land use planning group to our natural resources department, which I'm a part of, our transportation access and mobility group. We also cover workforce development for several counties, provide aging and health resources to the region, as well as have a really robust research and analytics group here at ARC. So that sets us up well to be the lead agency for the Atlanta MSA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. Next slide. So the Atlanta MSA is 29 counties, 150 cities, and represents about 57% of Georgia's population. You can see the map here. And while ARC covers about 20 of these counties, it made sense when EPA put out the call for a lead agency that we were the most logical to cover the MSA, since we already have strong relationships with these many of these counties and these cities, and are happy to reach out to the additional ones and make sure that we are covering everybody in the 29 counties in this plan. This looks very familiar. It's because it's essentially the same as the state's timeline. Unlike the state, we receive $1 million. The state receives $3 million to cover their portion of the counties. We cover a smaller section, so we're receiving $1 million. We have the same deliverables, though, with the Priority Climate Action Plan, quarterly reports, and we'll be involved with the PCAP implementation grants. As soon as we get the guidance on that, we'll have a little bit more clarity about what that looks like. We'll have a comprehensive climate action plan coming up in 2025 and a status report in 2027. So the same information that Claudette and Anna presented to you a few moments ago is very much what we'll be covering as well. It's just for the MSA, and so it will be a different plan. Our timeline also looks very similar. I'm happy to announce that we received word yesterday that we are receiving the planning grant award. And so that means we're just a little slightly behind where the state is, since they were able to apply and receive their award earlier. So right now, August, September, we are working on developing the plan and the process and the outreach strategy. We've been coordinating with the state this past summer, but really are getting into the meat of everything right now. We plan to hold stakeholder meetings in October, December, and February, and we'll begin developing the plan September through February. So there's opportunities for input as we're putting the plan requirements together, which are the same requirements that the state has from EPA. We'll be completing the draft at the end of this year and doing final revisions in February with a March 1st deadline to submit it to EPA. And like I said, we've been collaborating with the state of Georgia for the past couple of months, and we'll be using the same greenhouse gas inventory through Drawdown Georgia, their tracker. We feel it definitely meets the needs of the PCAP and the CCAP inventory requirements. We have been talking about how we can work together on engagement. Today is one example, and we'll be looking for additional ways to get the word out there together as it makes sense. And we've been doing a lot of great knowledge sharing around various tools for analysis, relevant plans that may be out there, and actions and strategies that may be relevant to the state as well as the 29 counties in the MSA. As of right now, the PCAP's key sectors that we are considering would be the largest sources of greenhouse gas emissions in the Metro Atlanta area, not including electricity generation, which we don't have the authority to regulate either via ARC or the cities and counties within the region. So we're looking at buildings and transportation, including all modes of transportation. Those are the ones that we're eyeing right now, but of course, during the outreach process, we may identify more, and as we dig more into the data, there may be another addition. slide. And just to wrap up, we also have a survey. It's a Survey Monkey. You can access it via the QR code. We'll send out the link after the webinar here today as well. But please access it to share your community's climate action, clean energy, or sustainability plans. We'll be looking at those plans to pull in ideas for strategies that we may want to include in the PCAP and the CCAP. Sign up to receive additional notification of upcoming stakeholder opportunities and surveys. And then spread the word. Please share this survey with your colleagues, with your friends, with other organizations you think may want to be in the know and be involved. And that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. I'm going to leave this up on the screen, which is all of our collective QR codes that will take you to different information. I'm going to start running through the list of comments or questions that we've received. And then if you would also like to speak, you can raise your hand using the reactions menu at the bottom of your Zoom screen or indicate in the chat that you would like to speak. Erica Hallman mentioned, could Drawdown Georgia data count as existing data that our state could use? Yes, absolutely. And I saw that you put that comment, and we had not gotten to our slide yet, but yes, we are partnering with Drawdown Georgia, and we are very excited to work with all of them. Mark Wharton asked if Georgia Forestry and DNR could be potential steering committee members. Absolutely, we could look into that. I can bring that to our branch chief. We can look at it and see if that is possible or if needed. But we were given kind of a framework of our steering committee from our former directors. So we may start with that, but if we need additional input, we could look at adding additional members if it was needed. Jason Lathberry mentioned no public transportation, no reduction in VMT, no modal shift to walking or micromobility. The answer is we're not excluding it. We started with what we know, and we permit facilities, and we work with air quality. So we know EV battery manufacturing, we know manufacturing plants. That's where we started because it's known to us. So Jason, if you have any information you would like to share with us, we would welcome it, and believe that that would be absolutely something that could be incorporated into our plan. Patrick King said, will EPD's plan work in concert with other state plans such as GDOT's carbon reduction program? We believe that they will. Since we've included GDOT in our steering committee, we will be talking with them because there's a number of funding opportunities that cover so many different options that we will be finding out what programs that they are involved in and making sure that everything that we do also benefits the programs that they are doing. Next, I have Greg. I'm gonna maybe mispronounce it, Boink or Boik. If we know of multi-jurisdictional plans that are partially in Atlanta MSA and partially outside, should we be coordinating primarily through EPD or ARC? I would tell you to coordinate with both of us. We meet on a regular basis with Crystal and her team. So if it was something that could benefit both sides, then I would say just notify both of us, and that would we'd make sure that whomever needed the information would already have it. Tim Profeta said it appears that only state, tribes, and municipalities are eligible for implementation grants. How would you advise a company such as Innovion work with the state to advance greenhouse gas reduction projects at its facilities, such as the capture of waste heat to increase the plant's efficiency? How will companies such as Innovion best engage in the strategies development? Moreover, will the state use the plan to identify federal resources that will accelerate the electric car industry in the state beyond those provided by EPA? Tim, I would tell you that we would state that companies are a key stakeholder. And one of the ideas that we could do is, since we do not know the parameters of the implementation grant, we do not know exactly how all of these different groups will get included into that proposal. So including companies like yours as a key stakeholder for your different industry would be important. And then once we learn what those parameters are for the implementation portion, we can learn how to include those different types of projects and measures going forward. We honestly do not know with how exactly this is all going to piece together yet, as we are learning and just waiting for more information. Lotus Cheney, will your greenhouse gas emissions reduction focus include scope 3? I do not know what that means. Claudette, do you have any?
Those are IPCC guidelines. I do not know the details. Crystal may be there. There are more experienced folks on the line that know about the IPCC scopes. Crystal, do you want to answer that?
I mean, I can't say exactly that we will dive into scope 3. That's more of the end users and behavioral side of greenhouse gas emissions, and including what happens within buildings to waste and materials. Right now, I'd say it's a possibility, but like I said, we've just begun to think about the process. We'll start diving into other plans that are available through local governments and other partners covering the MSA to see what they have considered as the most effective. So I wouldn't rule it out, but I also don't know at this point if it's a definite yes.
Okay, next question from Salma Ibrahim. Will the funding opportunity that is slated to be released in September be based on the draft of the PCAP that Georgia has at the time? Will it happen in additional sectors or projects? Or what will happen if additional projects or sectors are added to the PCAP after the fact? Well, we don't know yet on what will be released in September, but our PCAP will have to be submitted before we submit our implementation grant. So we believe we are building our PCAP so that those are one and the same. That's at least our initial plan. We're going to try and keep that simple so that we're drafting one document, not two completely separate. So that what will be released in September, we are not exactly sure. Our plan would be to include everything that we can in our PCAP so that we would have more opportunities in the implementation portion. Rhonda Burnell, what is the plan for community-based organizations and smaller hub and microgrid projects? Rhonda, we have already, this is one example, and this is not an exclusive example, but at least it's one thing that we have talked, at least with a few people or a consultant that has worked in a region, and they have come up with some different plans that would help a certain sector of Georgia. So the way for smaller based projects, it would be a city could submit that plan to us to be included. If there was an organization that wanted to do that, I mean, those are the types of options that we're looking at so that different cities, groups of counties, or an entire region, university system of Georgia and such can all have their different portions that are their plans that they've already put in place included into our PCAP, so that we can have the potential for trying to get funding moving forward. So those are our initial ideas. If anyone has suggestions or thoughts, of course, please share those with us. But that is how we're looking to try to include as many places and organizations throughout Georgia. Kayla Hunter, You're with the Ledger Enquirer in Columbus, Georgia. What would you say that folks in LIDAC communities can or should do with this new grant? Is there local citizen action to be taken from this grant, or simply government policy and business stakeholders? Also, how recently were the LIDAC communities determined? To answer the second question, the map that we shared, we pulled that up this week. So that was a recent, or last week, we pulled that from the EPA's website just very recently. So that is a accurate distribution across Georgia. I believe that Kayla's question kind of falls into the same conversation of what Rhonda did, which is if there are organizations, communities, or governments that have plans that will benefit, we will add that in addition to doing our LIDAC analysis. And unless Claudette, do you have some more you could add about LIDAC?
Yeah, I just recommend that folks go to the EPA CPRG website, and there's guidance on LIDAC there. And also in terms of the tools that are required to identify the communities, the CGEST and EJ Screen have very detailed methodologies that they use in terms of what percentage of the community is considered burdened, and what are those metrics. And so I recommend going to the CGEST website or the EJ Screen website and look through the methodology, because they have different metrics they use depending on the indicator that they are basing the data on. So that's what I recommend. And also the census data is from 2010, not the latest 2020.
Okay, next I have Beryl Tokte. I'm sorry if I am saying that wrong. What is the implication of picking specific sectors such as EV, and how you will respond to this opportunity? We jumped into the first section, the sector, with knowing that we have a basis of, we have a lot of EV development throughout the state of Georgia. So that is known to us. And so we know that. Also, the other part is that greenhouse gases in Georgia, our highest portion and sector is mobile sources. So going after cars is a good place for us to start. It's not where we're going to end. So that's why we have started with that sector, but are looking for, are there opportunities for improving or switching over electrification of buildings, looking at agriculture. You're looking, Georgia is very big into agriculture. We do not have the expertise in agriculture, and I've seen it mentioned again about forestry and agriculture. So yes, we will absolutely talk internally about also including them in our discussions, either as part of the steering committee or having separate discussions with them. But that we have just, that's where we have started because it's known to us. And we know that the mobile sources are the largest source of greenhouse gases in the state. So that's just where we have started. That's not where we're going to end. And we need additional, input from you all to help us to spread that net so that we can hit more of the sectors. And then we want to try and pick projects in our PCAP that to put into our implementation grant application that we feel like would have the most impact and have the most success to actually get funding. So that is our thought process, and all of this will evolve and change as we go forward. And we are willing and wanting input and discussion with you all. Next question, Erica Holman Hill. How will the plan follow and incorporate the Justice 40 initiative? Claudette, I may let you jump in. I know you spoke about Justice 40 on your LIDAC and a couple other slides earlier. If there's anything else you would like to add.
So there are prescriptive parts of the CPRG, such as the LIDAC, that EPA has created that framework to satisfy the Justice 40 initiative. States and MSAs have the ability to go beyond that requirement. But at the moment, the LIDAC is one of the main pieces that satisfy the Justice 40 initiative. And also, and the CJES tool was birthed out of the Justice 40 initiative also. But states and MSAs can go beyond that. We are still just early in the stages. Crystal, did you want to talk about that for the MSAs?
Not at this time. We're still getting our strategy together, but we'll be following the requirements that the EPA has set out in the CPRG guidance.
Okay. Next question is from Jason Lathberry. Other states have secured passenger rail manufacturing and have a few local e-bike manufacturers in Georgia. Are these opportunities to expand through this process? Jason, I have not heard of any discussions about passenger rail expansion or manufacturing. I do not know if we would have space for that. But e-bike manufacturers, that would be something we could definitely look into. Or I mean, if you happen to have any persons that we would talk to about rail, that would be absolutely fine. We'd be willing to talk to them, but we have not heard anything on that sector in Georgia. But e-bike manufacturing, I think that would be a very cohesive thing that we could add into or look into. Next question, Scott Preston. How do you plan to engage power providers such as Georgia Power, EMCs, and MEAG? Scott, we have already been talking with them. We have a very good relationship with our EMCs and the power companies. So they were notified of this opportunity. And I spoke with Georgia Power just last week. And looking to see just even, in our relationship with them, we're a lot on the point source side and the environmental regulation side. But talking with one of their regulatory coordinators, I've asked for them to share the word and spread through some of their planning organization or their different infrastructure portions so that we can get other inputs from them that we would not normally have. So they will be a part of our stakeholder, one of our key sector stakeholders, since we already have that working relationship. Abby Bauer, is the state considering conducting a full vulnerability assessment? Abby, I'm not sure what that is. Do you have an idea, Claudette? Abby, if you can elaborate, then that I can try and answer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't know why I'm showing up as Abby, that this is Jennifer Cherico, but
okay, Jennifer.
Abby and I work together at Georgia Tech through the Office of Sustainability. But we are doing a vulnerability assessment this fall for Georgia Tech. And so that generally is like a full assessment that looks at all of the vulnerabilities of a community. So we're looking at it specifically around Georgia Tech, but there's been a lot of discussion of the need for the city of Atlanta or the Atlanta MSA to do a full vulnerability assessment around climate vulnerabilities for the city and also the state. So that was my question. And usually that leads into a more of a, not necessarily climate mitigation, but adaptation or like a resiliency plan for the state. But it has a lot of the climate strategies.
Anna, may I address that?
Absolutely.
Thanks for that, Jennifer, not Abby. This was one of our main questions as we started to dig into what exactly the plan would need to look like. And EPA has been very clear that this is a climate action greenhouse gas mitigating plan. To the extent that there's the opportunity for addressing vulnerabilities and resilience with some of these greenhouse gas mitigation strategies, that's great, and we can call out the co-benefits, but EPA is very much wanting this to be a climate action plan.
Thank you, Crystal. And Jennifer, if you have additional discussion you'd like to have with us, please feel free to reach out to us.
Okay, yes, great. Thank you.
Okay. I believe someone raised their hand, but I think they took it down. If you do want to speak, Adrienne Rice, yes, go ahead.
Hold on just a second. Yeah. Okay, so I have more of a comment. This looks really great, but and I don't know what kind of question to ask, but I just thought we're definitely going to be looking at these surveys, trying to figure it out and talking to a lot more people that is on this call today so I can get some better understanding of some things. But the community, when Dr. Erica Holloman Hill asked about the Justice 40, that was not to attack anybody, that was a lackluster answer. And then the way that the community should be positioned, at the forefront. And I'm coming from a community group. We want to see less of assessing our issues and more of inclusivity of handling the problem. So as you're crafting this, if you can keep that in the forefront, that would be great. Yes. And we'll help out in any way that we can.
Yes, we understand that this is something that we've not had to do before. And because when we address air quality, we're looking at everyone and want to make sure that we try to benefit everyone on the same playing field. So we understand this is not in our wheelhouse. So we would appreciate any input that you would have and help to make sure that we are addressing this the way we should.
Indeed.
And Adrienne, thank you for that comment. We are still working on our strategy and definitely know that community needs to be first in this. ARC has done some work through our transportation plans and land use comprehensive plans over the years, and we are pulling upon what's worked well with that, what hasn't worked well. So I'm in conversation with several of my colleagues to think about what we can do for this plan, and also acknowledging that we have, and I didn't mention it during my presentation, ARC has several other climate-related plans and projects going on at the same time, but within our transportation group, as well as within our natural resources group. So we're trying to figure out a cohesive strategy to involve low-income and disadvantaged communities and stakeholders so that we don't get stakeholder burnout. So that is in the forefront of our minds, and we'll be in touch to get your thoughts. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd also like to say thank you for that comment, Adrienne. We are one of the pieces of the CPRG is meaningful engagement. And so we really do need to be intentional about how we do our meaningful engagement and how we get solutions. And as you say, not just taking surveys. So thank you for that comment.
Thank you.
Next question is from Justin Ellis. Would it be beneficial to this process to help develop a process for the CWAP that will help to identify community organization emission priorities and strategies to reduce them? Or will this process be developed by the US EPA? Delving into specific metrics can be a challenge, but highly useful. The first part for the CWAP is just a plan that we have to put together to show EPA where we're getting the data and what we're going to do with the data and making sure that it is quality. So it has nothing to do about their actual areas or regions. It's what we do after that, where we're going to be taking the data that we get from Drawdown Georgia, and a lot of their measures already look into the social and economic benefits on different reduction measures. So that is possibility of using their tool or using some other tools from EPA. All of that will be developed going forward. But all of this engagement is meant to be meaningful. And we do not, as Crystal said, we do not want stakeholder burnout. And we want quality information from you all so that we can put out a quality plan and be successful at putting this together. Next question is Spencer Pucci. Will this be approached from a regulation policy perspective or a climate science perspective, or both? I believe we're going to be looking at this from every aspect that we can. We're still ironing out details of how we're going to do all of these parts, but a lot of this is going to be more of a policy side, not a what can I do or control at a facility to fix or change this. So this whole entire process is different than any of our rules of regulatory development or writing an air quality permit. So a lot of this is new to us, and so we are trying to learn and adapt and change to make it purposeful and meaningful. Next question, Aisha Baldwin. Are there discussions about K-12 educators partnering with community organizations to work on emission reduction projects within their classroom or schools? This could help train the next generation of leaders for the green economy, adding value to Georgia's workforce. Thoughts on this? We have thought about partnering with our universities and our HBCUs throughout the entire state of Georgia, as though we can benefit all of Georgia as best we can. That is not an area that we have talked about. If you have any connections, we would appreciate, we could have a conversation. That is just not an area that we have looked at yet.
And Aisha, it's funny you should mention that, because my colleagues and I were talking about K through 12 and involvement in schools just yesterday. So it's on our radar. We haven't obviously fledged the idea fully out, but I could see it potentially being a strategy or an action in one of the action plans.
And Crystal, I wonder if it might be more beneficial in your MSA where you have a denser population than the rest of Georgia, but that's just a thought process, but we would be willing to discuss. I'm open for conversations. Erica Holman Hill, is this collective willing to give the same presentation if requested by DAC? I don't know what DAC is, Erica, but to give your answer, yes, we would be willing to give presentations. I'm speaking at the Georgia Planning Association's meeting at the end of September. So if you have a meeting where you would see the need for us to come and speak, you will just have to reach out to us and we can see if we can make one of us available to go, or a couple of us. We will just have to evaluate those on whatever our schedules are, which are filling up fast for all of this, but we are doing our very best to include and go to these different meetings if requested. So that is a possibility. You just have to reach out to us so that we can see if we can be available. Next comment is Lisa Leach. So if ARC is leading the efforts for 57% of the population in Atlanta metro area, who's leading the charge for the other 43% of us? Who can our communities coordinate with on this if we do not have a climate action plan in place? So the other 43% of the around Atlanta, that would fall in with us, with Georgia EPD, since we're covering the remaining portion of the state. I do not have an immediate answer to tell you who you should coordinate with. But if you could speak with your local governments, or if there is a planning organization that you could work with them. Those are just some ideas that I have. I don't know, Claudette, if you have anything else. I know that there are some groups in Southern Georgia that collaborate together for some of the coastal counties. So I know some of these organizations exist. So but I do not know where you can reach out. Greg Boink just said, would suggest contacting your MPOs or regional commissions in your region of your state. Because he said both Warner Robins and Macon and Augusta areas have members of the EPA Advanced Program, which is helping them develop plans in those different regions, which we have. Georgia EPD has worked with the EPA Advanced Program whenever we have an area that might have an issue with our national ambient air quality standard. So that is something that we have done before. So thank you for that suggestion, Greg.
And Anna, I just wanted to add that if your community doesn't currently have a climate action plan, I think that's one of the brilliant things about this EPA climate pollution reduction grant and requiring these climate action plans for MSAs and states. So at a minimum, when these plans are created, your community can refer to those plans. Obviously, it doesn't take the place of a more local community-based plan, but it is a start.
The last one I have listed is Rhonda Burnout. How or will planning resources money be shared with the municipalities? So Rhonda, that's part of what we're waiting to find out from EPA. If you have, we do not know if we include, say your municipality has a climate plan, or they want to electrify their fleet, or they want to put in bike lanes, or do some different actions like that. Let's say that you send us your plan. We do not know how this process is going to go yet. That's what we're waiting for. September is literally right around the corner. I would doubt it's going to come out on September 1st. But as soon as they send out, we will find out if we include you in our plans. Do we have to disperse the money to you, or if you all will then have to go to EPA to get the money, which we would assist you all on trying to do that process. It's not difficult. It's just, it has some set guidelines on how you would request for the grant money. So that is the part we will be waiting for. And, we will just we're waiting for more information. And as soon as we have it, I would suggest you sign up for our Gov Delivery. So then we can email out and let everyone know exactly what the guidance is from EPA. And then we will communicate forward how you will be included into the plan so that you can get money for your different region. I am looking through to see if there's any other comments. They've been running through, and we've had a person behind the scenes sharing them with me. So if I have missed something, please, speak up. I do see Raina Turner Greenlee, greetings. Let's see. She said, through your resources, are there any local training or air monitors available? I do not know of any items like that. And we aren't necessarily looking for including air monitors as a part of this program. But that does not mean there aren't other EPA programs to include that. I have a hand raised by Amy. I will unmute your line and you can go ahead and speak.
Hi, thank you.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. My question is about the intersection of like art and creativity and climate action. At both like as an artist and environmental practitioner, I've been trying to like actively seek community and belonging at these intersections. And I think like some of the most notable figures, like both historic and modern, when it comes to like art and music and media, have roots in Atlanta, in Georgia, and the South broadly. And so I'm wondering if there's been interest in or conversations about how to lead with storytelling and artistic and creative means to really better engage communities and like push the envelope in how we are imagining like what solutions to the climate crisis can be.
Anna, I can address this if you'd like from ARC's perspective.
Yes, go ahead.
So thank you for that comment, Amy. I don't know where you're located, but in the Atlanta region, we have been looking over the past several years, if not almost closer to 10 years now, about how to engage the creative community in planning in order to get that additional wealth of input in a different way than has traditionally been done. We definitely have a person or two on staff that are looking at that, and they are part of the community engagement kind of team that I referenced earlier as we're thinking about our strategy. So thank you for putting that out there, and we will definitely be thinking about that as we think about our outreach and engagement methods.
Okay. Scott Preston with Sierra Club stated his understanding is that local governments can use the implementation phase to develop or update a climate plan. However, I don't know how competitive that will be for getting award. You're correct. We don't know either. We have no idea what the criteria will be or exactly how that will work out. But our hope is that local governments, municipalities, organizations can apply and would be, and maybe if they're included in our plans as a collective and shows the impact throughout Georgia, that we would hope that that would give us you know, a good competitive plan to put together that will then get us money going forward. And that's just our hope. And I did want to add, air monitoring can be included in upcoming, is being included in some other grant opportunities. So if that's something you're interested in, you could reach out to us and we could try and connect you. As we've, you know, I've left up the QR codes. Here's our contact information. Here is me, Claudette, and Crystal. Please feel free to reach out to any of us for questions, information, and collaboration opportunities with you all. And we are very excited to be a part of this. We will be sending out links to everything, including our request for information and a recording of this stakeholder meeting and the slides and everything, including a list of the different questions. will be included on our website within the next couple of days. So please look to that. I'm not seeing any other questions. We will have a complete transcript of all of the chat that you guys have provided throughout this meeting. This has been very exciting. We are very happy that you all have come and are engaging with us and teach us a few things. I mean, we are engineers that work in air quality, and now we're jumping into climate and much more engagement and working on the different communities. So this is exciting and new territory for us. If there's not any other questions.
Anna?
If you would not like to have your name, we're going to provide a list of the participants on our website. If you would not like your name listed on the website, please send that to one of us, to me or Claudette, and we will remove your name. But otherwise, we will put everything, including a list of participants, with the thought of collaboration. That if you, liked what someone was talking about our communities, or with Amy with art, and want to connect or have some resources that could help each other, we want to provide that opportunity. So we will have a list of names and email addresses that we will also put on our CPRG page. If that is it, we thank you for coming. We're excited about this and look forward to talking to you again in the future.